See, when you're play not to lose or play to win, then usually we think we have limitations around time, money, or resources. And those are only limitations when we try to do too much alone. When we try to do too much ourselves, we get trapped in a losing game. But when we have a vision that's compelling, it allows for other people's abilities and resources to support us as well. So this is the key. Vision is the win, right? Vision is the win. Value is the way. Dollars are the byproduct of that value, and prosperity becomes our state of being.
All right, Garrett Gunderson, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast, my brother. I am super stoked to connect.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. We've got a few things in common, and it's not just long hair and a beard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We do both have that, but definitely much more. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, brother. You're an author, a wealth strategist, a comedian. You got this really cool American Ream comedy tour that's going down. And I'm excited to dive into all those different things. But before we do, what is something interesting about yourself that not too many people know, Garrett?
I actually taught English when I was 18 years old in Korea for 3 months, not speaking a word of Korean at all, man. Like, just went out there in between my freshman and sophomore year. And here's the funny thing. I went because my friend said, "Oh, dude, you could be a model in Korea." Now, why did I think that was realistic? I'm 6'3", I'm a white dude, and I'm going to Korea where like I had no chance of being like a model, but I ended up being a teacher. So I just taught classes, anything from Daewoo executives to kindergartners, man. I was just out there having a crazy adventure in South Korea.
Dude, that's awesome. You definitely could be a model though. I mean, first of all, let me just tell you, I lived in Bangkok for 10 months, and what I learned about modeling overseas, because I've been in the game for a hot minute, is, you're different over there, which different books, and when I was over there, like, I'm maybe one of 100, one of 1,000, maybe. When I go to Miami or Chicago or LA or New York and model or act, you're like, there's like 10 guys in the room who look just like you. You know what I mean? So I do think there's value in going abroad and doing your thing and just being the anomaly. So, but that's super cool that you taught English, especially without any knowledge of Korean. Interesting.
They liked that because they knew that I wouldn't speak Korean. They were forced to speak English in the class, So,
yeah, that checks out. So, man, let's dive in first and foremost. And I want to, preface this interview with, like, our whole goal as happy hustlers is financial abundance, right? Like creative freedom, time freedom, and financial freedom. And I know you have a very interesting take on money and abundance and just becoming financially literate. Give us just a little backstory on how'd you get into this whole finance game, and like where it all started and how it got to where it's at now.
Well, I started my first business that wasn't like babysitting or mowing lawns when I was 15, and it was detailing cars. So I, wash, clean, wax cars. And then I won $500 for being the third place rural young entrepreneur. Well, the next year I won first place for rural, which came with $1,000, and then first place for the state, which came with $5,000. And so to me, in this small coal mining town, I'm like, this is a ton of money. I should invest it so I could make it to the thriving metropolis of Salt Lake City. Like, in my mind, that was a huge city, and I was on my way to get there. So I tried to invest the money, but you have to have a custodian sign off when you're under 18. So when I was finally in college, I just started interviewing people that I thought were good with money, or that they knew people that were good with money and looked to invest. And my first investment was a small one, $70 a month, but it was not a good one. They were misquoting what things could actually do long-term. And I was pretty naive, but that led me down a path of just asking questions and learning. And at 19, I got offered an internship. Sounds super cool, but it meant I was peddling life insurance and mutual funds to family and friends, essentially. Mm-hmm. And then I really got educated in 2000 when the stock market started to go down. Got everybody out of the market by May of 2000. And I just started flying and traveling once a month to go interview people, leverage my young age that people would be willing to pay it forward and talk to me, and started to learn how money really worked. And that was kind of the beginning.
I love that, man. And, fast forward now, I mean, you have books about finance, you have courses, you do workshops, you have a whole comedy tour, which I think is such a unique and innovative way to share the messaging of money. Talk to us about, this American Ream tour and just,
Yeah.
where that all came from.
Look, man, I had this dream one night, and in this dream, it was like a Broadway play, and I was directing, but I was also like, maybe I was on the stage. And so I woke up and this thought was in my head that some people want to be educated, but everyone wants to be entertained. And so I was like, entertainment is the language of the masses. Yeah. And it could be a gateway to transformation. And all the time I'd go speak and people were like, when I saw you were a financial guy, I was going to skip your session, but I was pleasantly surprised. You brought energy and passion and a little bit of humor. And so when COVID hit, well, rewind a little bit. So I started in August of 2017 doing comedy because I was at a baseball game with my wife and I made her laugh enough. And she goes, "Where'd you hear these jokes?" I'm like, "From my own brain." So I was super proud of myself. And then my buddy Keith Yackey had me speak at his event that Sunday. And he introduces me as the next speaker is so hilarious. He's just so funny. One of the funniest dudes you'll meet. And I'm like, whoa, I'm giving a financial talk, but he's saying I'm funny. So I'm just going to start with some jokes. And for 3 minutes, I had the crowd laughing. And so I was like, I just called my buddy who's a comedian. I go, "Hey, I've got this whole premise. I look like Jesus, but I've got none of his powers. And I want to write some jokes around that and go do stand-up." And some of our mutual friends showed up to support. We had 6 rows of friends show up, so I couldn't back out. Yeah, had a decent 4-minute and 20-second set. And so my buddy that's a comedian goes, "Hey, you should start opening for us. I think you got something here." And 2 years later, they're filming their comedy special. And this manager from Hollywood's in the room. And I do a 10-minute set and he comes up and he goes, "You're really funny, but I thought I heard of you as a money guy. Like, what are you doing with this comedy thing?" I'm like, "It's a hobby." He's like, "Well, when you're ready to make it more, let me know." And so we had this conversation where I was like, nobody's talking about money. They talk about politics, religion, all these other things that are supposed to be taboo, but no one's talking about money. But I was still kind of doing this one-man show from the dream, which where I act out 4 characters, I play guitar, I do spoken word, all this way to learn about money. And I decided, you know what, rather than make that comedic, I want to make that transformational in a more serious tone. And then November 15th of 2020, since I guess COVID got to my head, I started writing this comedy special. Barry Katz, my manager, announces it on his podcast that it's going to be on April 15th because that's one hell of a day of a ream. And so I'm like, I guess we're doing this thing. We get this executive producer, Marty Callner, who won an Emmy with Seinfeld, who came on board. All of a sudden, this big team comes on board. Our director, Marcus Rayboy, was nominated for an Emmy this last year, has a ton of specials on Netflix. And I was like, I guess we're doing this then. I better get ready. And so I basically just every day walk in my neighborhood with 3x5 cards, making my team listen to me on doing comedy. I'm doing Zooms every day of the week, which Zoom comedy can be painful when people are on mute, bro. Like, I'm turn on your camera, and like, I didn't want to interrupt with laughter. I'm like, yes, because nothing like laughter ruins a comedian's day, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Dude, that's so cool how it came to fruition. And, it's just one of those things, like, I just want to extract the takeaway for me. You had an idea. You started with, okay, you know what? Comedy is a great way to entertain people. And not everyone necessarily wants the information around money, but they definitely want to be entertained. And I could use this medium to make people laugh, help them transform their money mindset. And now here you are, it's already shot and you're getting, you're getting these awesome streaming deals and you're going on tour. And I'm really happy for you and proud of you too, man. It's just so cool to see it. So
well, my manager told my wife, he goes, "Look, I'm 22 for 22 and discovering a comedian and getting them on a streaming service." He did Vicious Circle with Dane Cook. He did Whitney Cummings' first special. And she just looks at him and goes, "It's going to be awkward when you're 22 for 23. I was like, oh, damn, but
yeah, I love it. Well, let's dive in, man. One thing that really, that interests me about your money methodology is you have the win, then play. and that mindset around it. And I want to give the happy hustlers some real tangible like takeaways on this interview. Talk to us about the win then play like mindset.
So let's identify the other mindset so it can create the contrast and the understanding and the context. So the first mindset that most people have in money is play not to lose. Now, this isn't as much the entrepreneurial mindset as the rest of the world. So every entrepreneur really needs to understand this. And play not to lose is where people hold on to what they got. They scrimp, save, sacrifice, delay, defer, they budget, right? It's all about reduction of expenses and delayed gratification and enjoyment. And so when people play not to lose, it's a form of scarcity. And scarcity is the greatest destroyer of wealth. No amount of luck, no amount of saving, no discipline, no rate of return, no financial advisor will save someone. Because if you believe in the mindset of the finite pie, that there's only so much to go around, then play not to lose will be one of the methodologies that you'll use. Now, within the play not to lose thought process, there's two money personas on the shadow side of scarcity. The first one is the miser. The miser plays a game called preservation. And you know what? They'll end up with funds that they typically, well, they won't spend because they're addicted to holding on to what they've got. So that's the miser's mindset. The other mindset is the conservative, which isn't a political ideology. It's simply someone that plays the game called accumulation. They are anxious, they're hesitant, right? They're overly analytical when they're the conservative. They're gonna over save money and wait for one day, someday for that to pay off. So they're always funding their retirement plan. They're judging the hell out of you if you're not. And it's unfortunately a very limiting mindset, because either way, it's a finite game about reduction, and no one shrinks their way to wealth. So yes, they can end up with a lot of money, but they don't end up enjoying that money. They end up all about reduction. So that's the first thing, is play not to lose. The second thing is play to win. Now, some entrepreneurs kind of wear this as a badge or a moniker, like, I play to win, I will out hustle you, right? But the thing is, happy and hustle. If it's hustle alone, people get caught in this grind where they sacrifice their entire life, and then they find that their health suffers, their enjoyment and quality of life suffers. They don't build the life they love, they just end up burning out. So the first in the play to win is the striver. The striver plays a game called status, and well, they'll inevitably burn out because, you know, they think that they can just work harder and that'll solve everything. The other one in play to win is the high roller. And the high roller plays a game called opportunity. And you know what? They cut corners and take unnecessary risk. And sometimes the high roller is like the all hat and no cattle type of person, right? The $30,000 millionaire. So they look and act the part, but it's all rented. It's not real. Yeah. So play not to lose or play to win are forms of scarcity. One is hiding from our problems. The other one is running from our problems. But both of them have this void that no matter how much you save or no matter how much you earn, you're never content. You never find joy. You never create space for actually just doing things that you love to do. And I know that's a big part of your message in what you do. So win then play says, let's win before we begin. Let's determine what that win is and determine what the game is that we're going to play. Not the game that other people want us to play, not what well-intentioned preachers, teachers, family, and friends thought we should play, not the container society created for us. You know that game, it's all about more, bigger, better, faster. No, you design a game worth winning and then play that game. And when you've won because you created a compelling vision you never want to retire from, you've already won the game, and the win is in the work. And the win is in the lifestyle. And the win is in the choices that you make because they're fulfilling to you, because it's something that matters. And that goes to your passion, purpose, and positive impact tagline is when people win then play, that's the natural kind of way and flow of how things are going to go.
Damn, brother. Amen. Amen. I mean, I highly recommend all the happy hustlers rewind and just go listen to that again, because there was some absolute gold dropped in there. And it really is win them play, identify what winning even looks like first and foremost, you know, right? Like, what's the first step? Is it identification of the win and then moving forward to actually playing the game and the winning in the work?
To win is to know and live our soul purpose, SOUL. Soul purpose is to know our values, which is our script for how we operate. combined with our passions and abilities for the highest context of our living, which is vision. See, sole purpose isn't formulaic. That's great for copying systems and processes, but it limits our individuality and our self-expression. So the key is to listen to who you are, to listen to your intuition, to be in nature, to find those quiet moments where you can ask yourself, what do I want? And when you create a vision that's so compelling, and all you have to do to create a vision is be willing to speak it into existence, even if you don't feel like you have the resources or bandwidth to realize it at that time. See, when you're play not to lose or play to win, then usually we think we have limitations around time, money, or resources. And those are only limitations when we try to do too much alone. When we try to do too much ourselves, we get trapped in a losing game. But when we have a vision that's compelling, it allows for other people's abilities and resources to support us as well. So this is the key. Vision is the win, right? Vision is the win. Value is the way. Dollars are the byproduct of that value, and prosperity becomes our state of being.
Man, love that. I mean, it's so true. Just making your mindset understand that the value that you provide to a customer is truly what matters most, and the money that comes from it is the byproduct. That was such a mindset paradigm shifter for me, just as an entrepreneur. I did it for the wrong reasons early on, like many others, like profit and success.
I did too. Yeah. And who defines success? Who defines it?
Yeah, no, it's so true. Like what I created for myself with the profit and success was not my definition of success. It was society's. And I think that's what happens all too often. And, that's what really sent me on this journey of being happy every day within the hustle. And I know the happy hustlers out there equally so. And it's just so important to remember, you have to get clear. Like we're talking archery. I know you're, a bow hunter, as am I. And you're never going to hit the target if you don't know what the hell the target is, So right. But a lot of people go out there hunting every day, hustling every day, but they don't know what the hell they're hustling for, And so I just think having that vision clear first and foremost, then figuring out what value that you can truly provide to the people that you want to serve, then get the byproduct of money as a consequence. It's that order.
Yeah. And vision is not a goal or an objective. Vision is the container in which we live into. It tells our brain what's important and what to pay attention to. We have to create a vision bigger than our problems and beyond our current reach for that to come to fruition. Otherwise, if it's like, I want to save a certain amount of money, or I want to run that's a goal, right? But a vision is context for our entire life. And for my vision is to plant a seed of hope, connection, and expression in the hearts of 1 billion people on the planet through entertainment. And so that they're inspired with that seed and say, what do they want to do? How do they want to live? And I know one of the things that blocks us from that is our confusion around money. Yes. And when money isn't put in its proper place. See, I think money, as you said so well, is a byproduct of value. Those are your exact words. We could even say money follows value, or money chases value. So money is a man-made efficient tool of exchange, right? That's what it is. It's just a man-made tool. It's an efficient way to exchange, so we don't have to use a barter system. It's a place where we store value for value created in the past and the current value, but it doesn't dictate our destiny or even reflect our potential of where we can go. Far too many people use it as an excuse or a limitation. Money and time are two of the biggest excuses people have. But again, those are only excuses when you're either not clear enough about a compelling vision, you're not living a life based upon your sole purpose, or simply you're trying to avoid or trade something that you don't like. That's when we get in the trap, because when people tell me, I just want to be out of debt. Well, that's a technique, or that's a strategy that you could use to remove that. But then what? Like if money is not a primary reason or concern for why you do or don't do something, you're free, you win. But what we want people to consider here is, if money weren't an issue, you had an unlimited checking account, what would you choose to do with your day? And if someone says nothing, it's because they've been exhausted doing the wrong things. And if someone says something different than what we're currently doing, they're not living their purpose or vision to the full degree. And typically they'll say, well, it's because I need to have the money first. But that's not actually true, because I didn't come from money. and I had to be really
Me either.
resourceful, right, to get there. And what I have now isn't where I started from. I started from my parents loved me. They took good care of me. Not everybody even has that kind of a situation. So I think a lot of times we're limited by our childhood wounds, and those childhood wounds dictate what money persona we are and the scarcity that we live into. But if we can opt out, have the awareness of scarcity, and choose abundance, it doesn't mean that everything goes perfectly according to plan or always go our way. But what it means is we use love, faith, and hope. We use human ingenuity and innovation. We use value creation and vision instead of fear, doubt, and worry that scarcity brings us to. And when people spend most of their time in complaining rather than creating, they get stuck and vision becomes elusive.
I mean, amen again to that, brother. It's definitely something I think all the happy hustlers need to just do a quick gut check. Like, are you operating from scarcity, or do you operate from that abundance mentality? And do you have a vision for yourself? I mean, I love that even our visions are kind of similar, because I jump on my mini trampoline every day, and, you know, I'm the world's greatest happy hustler. I educate, inspire, and entertain over 100 million people every year with my content. And I blah, blah, blah. And I get into all my thing. And it's like, it's so true. If you have a vision, bigger than yourself, and you have a why, which is the fuel to your fire, the inevitable adversity will strike, but your why is what will allow you to persevere past that adversity. And I think the vision of someone like you having huge goals, 1 billion people, like that is a driver to just create, to show up as the best version of yourself. And eventually you reach a point in your journey as an entrepreneur or as a happy hustler where the money really, like, more doesn't matter, so you better have a strong enough why to keep fueling you as you do. Right.
When I was in my 20s, the money mattered. I measured myself by the money. And I would say it this way: money is a great companion, but a terrible solo artist. If we measure our life by our money, we're always going to find people that have more. And we're always going to find ways where we could have made more or could have done more. And it's a pretty vicious trap. But I think money's great. I really like it. I look at it a lot in my life now like air. There's plenty of it, so I don't really worry about it. But when you're suffocating, you start to think about it a whole bunch. And I've been in those moments,
Yeah,
in 2008,
as have I.
Yeah, I got over leveraged with real estate in 2008 and launched a book at the same time. And I felt like I had to go through my own crucible to figure out like what I was actually teaching and if it was real or not. And it was a painful experience, but it also gave me compassion. It also gave me permanent lessons. Instead of like being frustrated with it, I said, what can I learn from this? And what could other people learn because of what I've gone through? And I felt like it was a masterclass in 2008 that no college degree, no PhD, almost nothing else could have taught me, because I was in the pain and asked questions other people weren't asking. So look, I mean, I don't say any of this saying, oh yeah, well, look, I'm here in this place now, and so it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy, but I'm also choosing a comedy career, which is not easy, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm complacent. I'm going, hey, I hit the Inc. 500, right? Paid contributor for Forbes and New York Times bestseller. What else will challenge the hell out of me? Comedy. Let's try that.
Stand up.
Let's do 15 cities while we're at it. Why not?
Yeah, in a pandemic.
In a pandemic. And I bought my house. I bought a new house and sold my old house a few weeks ago, because I'm like, what else could I add stress? Or I sold a company. I just said, how can you have more life change in a very condensed and talk about the happy hustle, like stay happy in that, right?
Yeah, dude, that's a lot. Wow, that is a lot. I mean, it's really one of those things where you just have to continuously grow through it. Like whatever you go through, you grow through, and just making sure that you're pushing yourself. I mean, here you even have someone like Garrett, guys, telling you, he's been on the other side where he was, over leveraged in real estate and went through financial hardships, but he grew through it and he figured out a way to evolve. And I think it always stems back to education, financial literacy. That was the determining factor, at least for me in my money journey. Now I'm still very much on my journey. Like I feel so grateful for my abundance. However, I'm still on my journey. And Garrett's still on his journey too, but there's levels to it, right? And I stem back to the financial literacy component, as ignorance is a choice. If you don't know the difference between a stock or a bond, that's your choice, because all that information is right at the touch of a button with your phone. And it's like, you can learn from people like Garrett. You can buy his books. You can go to his workshops. You can even get a giggle out the deal and go to a comedy show and learn. You know what I mean? It's like, there's information out there. So first and foremost, guys, you have to educate yourself. Now, I do want to touch on your 4 I's, Garrett, because I think this is really important for people. Talk to us about the 4 I's. I know you got IRS, interest, investments, and insurance. Give us, a little bit of knowledge and education on each of the 4 I's, would you?
People are spending so much time and energy budgeting and setting money aside for the future, and this will outperform it with less effort. See, these 4 I's are the 4 I's to efficiency. Most people tip the government. They just tip the government. And look, I like tipping waiters, not necessarily the government. Like when you tip the government, that's like tipping someone who, ate 37.5% of your meal and peed in your soup, like it's so more, true. I like to tip to say, thank you, job well done. Not something right now I'm associating with the government. So the second I is interest, and we're in a really low interest rate environment. So if you haven't restructured your loans or renegotiated your interest rates, you're probably overpaying on your interest. And there's all sorts of strategy by having the right credit score, the right collateral, the right cash flow reporting, or even the right connections that can help you pay a lot less in interest and keep more of what you make that way. Then the next I is investments. There's a lot of hidden fees, there's a lot of commissions, there's a lot of non-performing fees that aren't adding to what's going on. And look, the difference between getting 9.2% over 30 years on 100 grand and 10% is $340,000. That's a big difference for less than 1%. What if those were legal fees, admin fees, 12B1 fees, which are marketing fees that are coming out of your accounts, or if you just haven't properly protected the downside? Or the last I is insurance. A lot of people just haven't designed their insurance properly because nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, I should review my insurances. That would be a good thing to do today. But I believe insure the catastrophic, not the inconsequential. The inconsequential are things you could write a check for and you can go to sleep tonight not worried about it. And a lot of people have really low deductibles on their car insurance, on their homeowner's insurance, or their disability insurance kicks in really quickly. And if you can change those elimination periods of those deductibles, you could get more coverage for the catastrophic and less for these things that you could handle out of pocket. And so you can transfer more risk without having to transfer more money from your pocket. So those 4 I's are ways that you could plug financial leaks, and then you can automatically save that money instead of having to go to institutions, and you can get more performance out of that, meaning you have to take less risk with other investments, or you can invest it back into yourself, or you can have a peace of mind fund or some staying power by having that money set aside. And so those are just a few basic concepts instead of the 4 I's, but just realize, here's the deal. Here's the deal. You got to make sure that taxes are handled first, because if you're overpaying that's money that can come right back into your life, and there's ways to legally and ethically save on that, especially entrepreneurs.
Yeah, such a great point. I mean, first and foremost, taxes. Like everyone pays them, and we have a choice to pay more and tip the government more, or you could be diligent and figure out how to set yourself up so that, you win, then play, right, with your taxes. Totally. What is just like base level, like the happy hustlers that are out there listening to this are like, what's the first step just to lowering my tax burden, Garrett?
Okay, so I'll give you the framework. And the third part of the framework, I'm going to give you the first because it's most important. It's reclassifying your income. When you choose the right corporation, you might be able to avoid self-employment tax, which can save you up to 15.3%. So if you're the only owner of your business, an S Corp might be the best thing to do that. If you're in a partnership, it might be an LLC, but it shields your taxes and your liability. The second thing is, I want you to see if you could make your active income more passive for tax purposes. 1099 income gets less taxation than W-2, which is some of the things I'm talking about here earlier. The second thing is, can you turn ordinary income into capital gains? Your equity in your business is a capital gain. As of right now, capital gains are about half of what ordinary income is, although they're talking about changing that, but at least that could be a good thing. Like if you do business internationally, You can set up an international sales corp and everything comes into that capital gains instead of ordinary income. Or if you have a big business with a lot of risk, you can actually set up your own insurance company that money can go in pre-tax. And if it doesn't need to be used for insurance claims, you can pull it back out capital gains. The third thing is tax-free. You know, there's some people that can set up what's called a 1202, which is a C corporation. And if they sell that business after 5 years, they have up to $10 million tax-free. So that would be an example of tax-free. Or you can do a charitable trust where you could donate your highly appreciated capital gain asset, like a stock, a piece of real estate, or a business, get a tax deduction, not pay tax on the sale, and still get cash flow from that asset for the rest of your life. And then the charity keeps what's left over. Or even learning about things like tax arbitrage, which are spending $1 and getting more than $1 back. Most entrepreneurs make a mistake. They spend $1 and save 37 cents. And it was something they wouldn't have bought otherwise. So like I have artwork.
True.
I have artwork that I bought that when I donate it 3 years later, I get back $2 for every dollar that I spent on it because of the way I buy it. Or if you own a bunch of property, like you could do a conservation easement, which means no one can ever build on that. You get an accelerated tax benefit for preserving that land. So just a couple examples. That's reclassification. The first bucket is get the right team. Have good timely data that comes in with a part-time bookkeeper or controller or CFO. Have a tax strategist that meets with you every quarter and helps you maximize your deductions. Most people have CPAs that tell them what they owe at the end of the year. Get an attorney, because a tax attorney, if you're making millions, or a corporate attorney, so you choose the right corporation. And if you own a commercial property, get a cost segregation engineer. That is your team. Then maximize your deductions by every time you spend, say, is this related to my business? If it is, meet with your accountant and say, can I write this off? Every quarter you're asking yes or no. You throw things out that don't apply. And then, I've been able to write off trips to Italy because I did, retreats for my business. We did our annual corporate compliance while we were there. We filmed some things that ended up being in videos that we're using. So I was able to write a portion of that trip off. I was able to write off a portion of my Can-Am, which you probably know what a Can-Am is.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a little Batmobile because it's in the beginning of my podcast. And when people come up for immersions, which I'm doing one tomorrow, we go ride around on that. So I can't write off the whole thing, but I can write off part of it. But most people don't communicate with their team, so they end up overpaying on their taxes. So that was a lot in a short period of time on the tax there, but there's some ideas.
Hot fire there coming at you guys. Again, press pause, rewind, and then just get your pen out and start taking some damn notes. Or, Garrett, you guys do this stuff with your team, right? Like where can people go if they're like, damn, I just need someone like Garrett and your help? Talk to us about that process.
Yeah, if they go to wealthfactory.com/tax, they can get some really cool resources around tax that can help them out with that. I host workshops that we actually spend 2 days to really dial this in and get people, figuring out everywhere where their money's leaking, how they keep more of what they make, how they create a vision. And GarrettGunderson.gg, if you buy comedy tickets, then they offer you the workshop afterwards, or you can say, I hate fun, and just go to the workshop alone, right there on the site. But those are a couple of resources that way. And, I don't really have, budgetingsucks.com, my book there does delve into the tax realm. That of all my books, that one is my newest book, and it's the one that gives the most content around cash flow and taxes. Killing Sacred Cows is pretty philosophical, how to avoid scarcity and embrace abundance. What would the Rockefellers do, or what would billionaires do? Very much practical on how you can start saving money in a very tax-favored environment and get cash that comes in after you die to create a legacy. Where Budgeting Sucks is kind of A to Z of your finances. And I think you can, I don't know if there's a free download or a $3, it's pretty inexpensive to grab that.
Now, the place to get all that, guys, if you just want to really start researching Garrett and getting all those different links, GarrettGunderson.gg, that'll take them to basically every one of them. So
and
I would highly
they can even figure out their money persona there. There's a quiz there that tells you the positive side of your money personality and where your downside is in it. That's a free quiz, man. I've been working on that forever. It just came out. So really excited about it.
Oh, super cool. Yeah, definitely recommend taking that quiz, guys. And, I would say, if you're not taking this stuff serious, you're wasting money. You're wasting time. You're making a mistake, a grave one at that. And it's something that now I'm more and more becoming aware of in my own business, in my own life as well. Cause listen, I'm not a money guy, like I'm a happy hustler, goofball who looks like a caveman. But like, you gotta learn from people like Garrett who are money guys, who know this stuff inside and out, who really can help you and save you years and years of financial troubles and pain and overpaying. Garrett, I'm curious, like right now, given this current landscape with our new political shift in power and the pandemic and the new strains and interest rates at a all-time low, and it seems the real estate market is just at an all-time high. And it's like, what do you make of our current market, and what's your prediction for the next 6 to 18 months?
Well, short-term predictions can be pretty inaccurate. So I'll preface it with that. Longer term is a little bit easier, just because there's so many mechanisms when we're lowering interest rates that artificially, moves prices up, because people aren't buying houses for the most part based upon the purchase price. They're buying it based upon their payment. And then they go get a home based upon that payment. And so when interest rates lower, those prices start to increase. Now, we are printing more money. It's not even being printed. It gets added to computer screens. And so we're creating a situation where it's going to be very hard to adjust interest rates. Because if the interest rates go up, servicing that debt becomes more expensive for the government. And the only thing that they could do to service that is either, I guess, print more money and water down the soup of our money, or raise taxes. So they are very much, Biden is one of the few people, if the only one ever, that actually won with a campaign about raising taxes. He was very clear that he wanted to raise taxes. That's a pretty rare situation. So taxes could be going up. Inflation is inevitably going to come, because when you're adding that much money to an economy, that has an impact over time. So what I find is, you can't really sit around and just hope for the best, setting money aside and go. The stock market doesn't make sense at this point because of the flood of money. Like, if we sold those businesses that have, like, there's businesses on the stock market that have franchises, but if you sold those franchises, they'd be selling for like 10 times more than the franchise is worth based upon the stock price. So that's very concerning to me, because as we keep printing money, as people keep getting, checks that come in that they didn't earn, but they're just saying, hey, we're going to help support you. And then they're putting that money in the stock market. It starts to build that up artificially. When real estate starts going up in value because of low interest rates and limited supply due to a pandemic, we're going to find a bubble. More people are looking at crypto now than ever because they don't trust what's going on in the inflationary type of structure. But there's a lot of that that's not going to work out, some that is going to work out. So it's really hard to discern. So we also have that more businesses are changing hands now than ever. We got baby boomers retiring. And so we're seeing a massive transfer of wealth that on the other side of this, I don't know if 18 months is too soon. It might be more like 3 years or even 5 years. We're going to find the rich get richer, and we're going to find the middle class having a harder time keeping their head above water, because prices are going to increase, but their income will not increase at the rate that those prices increase. And all of this distribution, where we're adding money and we're giving people money, will still end up in the wealthiest people's hands. Those people that buy assets that are more inflation guarded, people that are buying businesses, people that focus on how money works. And so unfortunately, this is going to be a very painful situation for people that don't understand the money game or the entrepreneurship game, because they're just going to be in a place where their lifestyle is going to suffer.
Yeah, man. It's so well said. And it's a scary time, especially when you put it like that. It's definitely something where you have to understand the money game. You gotta do the due diligence.
That doesn't mean spreadsheets and numbers. Yeah. Ironically, I'm not really great with spreadsheets. I'm good at the concepts. Once you understand it philosophically and it makes sense to you, I watched The Matrix again recently. It's almost like now you can look at it and know what's going on in the Matrix, where it doesn't just look like a bunch of crazy numbers, like, right, once they understood it. So like, once you understand the concept of money as a store of value, as a byproduct of value, as you learn value creation and you invest in yourself and your skill sets, and then you automatically save money, just automatically set money aside. And then with that, build up enough liquidity. And then when you have enough liquidity, now you're ready to invest, because you figured out your investor DNA, which is risk is in you, the investor, not the investment. Don't invest in things you don't understand. Get really good at a few things and focus instead of diversify, and then protect what you focus. I know that's different than what most people hear out there, but that's really the roadmap of the wealthy. The wealthy that diversify, it's because they have so much money, they have to diversify.
Yeah.
But they got wealthy with focus, not diversification. Diversification is about preservation, where focus is about growth. Figure out what's going to make sense for you, and don't invest in things you don't know. If you don't know crypto, it's not going to be the right investment for you. If you don't know real estate, it's not going to be the right investment. If you don't know business. But if you do know those things, then invest in that. And if you don't, create the skill set. I invested in my comedy career by surrounding myself by people that knew the game. I went on stages. I figured out a process over time, which was about co-creation and collaboration. And most people are in isolation, and isolation takes too long. Co-create and collaborate to get there faster.
Yeah, so well said again, man. In terms of focusing right now, let's just speak to the happy hustlers listening, and they're like, Garrett, man, I got a business. It's making money, maybe six figures, right? I got, maybe a property, a real estate asset, and I got maybe my hand in some crypto, just to hedge my bets. Where would you focus right now, given the inflation that's coming, given the taxes that will most likely increase? Like, what's your take? Where would you be focusing?
So my steps would be save on tax, save on interest, save on non-performing fees and investments, and cash out of ones you don't understand, get better with your insurance, and then take that extra cash and put it into your business and find out, what is it? Is it process? Is it automation? Is it people? Find ways that you can start increasing your impact, or more deeply impact those people you currently serve, and focus on accelerating cash flow with that. By increasing that cash flow, see, small businesses can have big gains, where big businesses, it's harder to get that because there's a saturation. So what is it that's going to make you a more sustainable business? What is it that you're missing that you can add more value to the people you currently serve? You can go ahead and, ask them, survey them, figure that out, and just look at where your bottlenecks and where is it that you're not delivering as much as you want, which might be a refinement of getting even more focused and, eliminating some things, or maybe it's adding something that's missing that makes a big difference. Many times that is hiring the right people, or investing the time to really get clear about your vision, which will drive everything that you do. And that's hard, because sometimes when we're in the grind and we're in the hustle, it's hard to take and hit pause and be like, what is it I really want? Is this what I really want to do? Yeah.
I mean, it's a great point. Like, again, guys, go back to the 4 I's. Identify, okay, where you can save on taxes with the IRS, what interest, that you're paying right now, and, how you can maybe refinance your interest rates.
You should be paying less than 1.9% on a car loan, less than that. You should be paying less than, I just got a jumbo loan for 2.75%. I could have gotten 2.25% interest only. Those are pretty low. And if you're willing to shorten your mortgage, which I'm not, because I like control of my money, you could get even below that. Even credit cards are negotiable. There's so much opportunity there with a little bit of time that makes a difference over a long period of time. It may not be the funnest thing to do to get these things set up, but once they set up, they pay off for long periods of time. It's not just like saving tax this year. It's about, when you have the right strategy, you're going to save tax each and every year from something that might only have taken you a few hours, but could have a huge impact over time.
Oh yeah, the compound effect, like Darren Hardy says, and that one change this year in your tax structure, or like I'm currently becoming an S corp, just as you mentioned, that's going to save me a ton from last year's tax.
Salary plus dividends out of the S corp, and you'll avoid at least 3.2% tax, but up to 15.3.
Yep, I love that. I'm definitely going to have my CPA listen to this episode, but just maybe go through some of your tradings too. Awesome. Now I'm curious. You mentioned like how you took out a jumbo loan and how you leveraged debt, and I know some people are like Dave Ramsey, debt is bad, and then some people are like Robert Kiyosaki, I love debt. Give me more debt. It's like, what's your take on debt?
So we always pay interest, whether we borrow money and pay it to the institution, or do we pay cash and we forfeit the right to earn interest? Either way, there's an interest cost. Everybody has a cost of money. Your cost of money is your highest long-term rate of return that you can earn on anything. Now, for some people, that cost of money is 29% on their credit card. And if they don't pay it off, it's costing them $1.29 because of that interest rate accruing, right? But let's say that I can get 5% without any concern, almost guaranteed, which I can do. And I'm only paying 2.75% on my mortgage. Now, the first consideration is economically, it makes sense to have a mortgage because I'm outperforming and I could pay that off faster by keeping control of my money. But we also have to take into consideration peace of mind. Peace of mind is different for each individual. I have a friend that when he left to become an entrepreneur from a corporate job, his wife said, "We'll do it, but I just want you to pay off the loan. I want you to pay off the mortgage." And he goes, "But it's only 3%. We can outperform it." She goes, "I just sleep better at night." He sold 19 businesses and he's still married. So that was a good decision.
Yeah.
So look at the peace of mind and the economics and combine that. And for some people, they just feel better. And you are your greatest asset, not a stock, bond, or piece of real estate. So if you do things that lower your abundance and create scarcity, like finance something that you're worried about, then that's not meant for you. You're meant to pay those off. But here's the problem with Dave Ramsey is just saying, no matter what, pay off your mortgage. But the problem is most people don't because they end up moving, they end up refinancing, or they tie up all their money in equity jail, meaning when you prepay a mortgage, it doesn't lower your payment, it just shortens your payment because it's amortized. So if you actually get into trouble, you're gonna have less liquidity, less access to cash. And so my problem is I don't love just giving the bank extra money. Kiyosaki, I mean, he'll tell you, I've been on his podcast several times, he's like, a lot of people aren't meant to be real estate investors. They don't go to the classes, they don't do the work. So leverage would be really damaging to them. So if you're borrowing, and then all of a sudden the market changes and you don't have exit strategies or you don't have knowledge around that, you're going to be in trouble. So you really have to understand who you are and how you operate. I think that far too often people get over leveraged when they get excited about real estate. Sure, it's cheap money. Sure, you can acquire properties, but you have to keep your eye on the cash flow. And if you're not focused on enough cash flow or don't have enough cash in the bank to give you staying power, over leveraging could topple the whole thing over. So it really comes down to personal preference. And I look at the economics and the person and combine the two. I think more of the so-called gurus should do that and not just have a hard, fast line of everyone should have a mortgage. No one should have a mortgage. Pay it off no matter what. Never pay it off no matter what. I mean, that's confusing because it's more preference than it is economics and understanding of the individual.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. You have to know your money persona. That's why you created the quiz. I mean, that's why the Happy Hustlers really should take you up on it and go to GarrettGunderson.gg and take the damn thing and figure it out. So you don't get yourself in a situation where you're over leveraged, where you're not sleeping at night, where you don't have the peace of mind. I think it's a really great distinction. There's not a one size fits all mentality to wealth building. It's really based on your personality, and there can be multiple different routes. However, there are some tried and true principles.
Yeah, I talked to my wife. I was like, how do you feel about us paying off our mortgage, you know, if we were to do it? Because this house that we just moved into a few weeks ago is a pretty sizable.
Looks nice.
House. It's a nice house. I got an echo because I don't have rugs in this office yet. So I'm trying to, keep the headpiece in. But so, because we paid cash for our cabin and it's it's almost like a lodge. It's super nice on a river and all this. So, but I was like, you know what? I didn't want to go through the pain of financing at that time. It was a second home, so you didn't get as good of interest rates. And we were in competition with other people that were looking to buy the cabin. And the fact that we had cash, we were able to close in 9 days and we were able to get the cabin. And we actually even got a little bit off the price point because this person had got it under contract and the other financing didn't go through. So they were kind of like gun shy and said, oh, it's cash, let's do it, right? Yeah. So where this home, ironically, we actually financed it and we had a cash offer against us, but it was an investor and they wanted a family to live in the neighborhood. So it's not a hard, fast rule, but I do know that I wouldn't buy a home at this stage of my life that I couldn't pay off. If I bought a home that I couldn't pay off and things went crazy in the economy, I just don't want to put myself in a place where I am overextended like I was in 2008. And I don't look at that as scarcity. I just look at it as risk management.
Yes.
I just look at it as like peace of mind. I want to be as productive as possible. I want to get up every day and enjoy life the most possible. And if I was strained in paying for something, that would be problematic to me being creative and abundant and being productive.
So true. Such a great point. So with that being said, what would you, if you're maybe talking to the happy hustlers out there and you're saying, man, I want to get in the real estate market, but I just, this might be my first property or one of my early properties. It's not like I'm not necessarily a savvy investor. I mean, is now a bad time to enter the real estate market, or would you say go for it? Or
there's always danger in any market. But good investors can make money in any market. I knew this real estate investor that got overextended, but then he did this round robin process where he put up a house that would be worth 500 grand. He put it in the newspaper for $130,000 or best offer. And they had to place a bid when they came to the open house. And then he did a round robin auction and then said, do you want to pay more? And then even if they paid less than the house that he owed on it, he was the bank at that point. He was financing it. So the cash flow covered what he needed. So if you're creative like that, it's fine. But I'm going to tell you, if you can get in real estate, pick your lane. Look at one thing, find a mentor, and don't deviate from that lane. If it's going to be fix and flips, residential real estate, commercial real estate, if it's going to be, distressed properties, real estate owned REOs and that kind of stuff, pick a lane, learn as much as you can about it so that you learn how to mitigate and manage your risk instead of just getting involved in it when the market is appreciating substantially. And it's also competitive. There's new software for people to analyze fix and flips. There's full-time investors that this is all they do. And if you're going to have a part-time effort, you're going against someone that's treating it like a business and you're treating it like a hobby. So you got to know what your exit strategies are, what your cash flow is, what your downside is. And in any market, there's always distressed sellers. And if you can liquidate things for them quickly, you can have something that could be profitable from day one. Look at ways that you can win up front, be profitable from day one, cash flow from day one. It takes more time. It takes more due diligence. It takes more focus. But if you're going to treat this any other way, you're going to put yourself in danger.
Some wise words, my brother. Wise words. I mean, it really is one of those things where you have to realize there's people out there who are playing full out, full time in the real estate game. And if you're giving it a half effort, you're going to get your butt kicked. And if you're not taking it serious and doing the due diligence on a deal up front, you might get burned. So it's really important, again, like stay in your lane, pick something and go for it all in.
So I invest a little bit in real estate, but I don't invest in all the other stuff we talked about. I'm not buying apartment complexes. I tried that before, and commercial. I've done a lot in real estate over the years. What I decided is I like real estate that I can enjoy. So when I bought my cabin, that cabin has gone up about 70% in appreciation since 2018. Because it was on a river. There's not much riverfront. I did a little bit of work to it, but it was in amazing condition. We've used it like crazy. I'm actually meeting with a full day immersion tomorrow with a client who's paying me for a day of coaching up there. So we have we have a podcast studio there.
Love it.
So it actually has value. It's not the most cash flow value because my wife's like, we're never renting it out to anyone. But then I also went out to the neighborhood and said, is anyone interested in selling? Because there's nothing for sale. And one person said, well, I'm retiring in 3 years. I said, well, would you be willing to sell to me now? And then I'll just rent it back to you for 3 years. He said, sure. So now I have a fish pond. I have 3¼ acres. And we're going to, when he moves out, we're going to turn it into a music studio where we're going to actually produce entertainment, which is part of the company. And I know it's going to go up in value because I know the neighborhood, because a Costco's going in 15 minutes away. It's far enough away that it doesn't disrupt us, but it's close enough that it's valuable. A ski resort's going in that's 15 minutes away. It's far enough that it's not going to disrupt us because there's limited amount that can be built. So I just see that going up in value because I'm intimately familiar with it and knowledgeable around it. Even the house I'm in right now, it's not going to cash flow. It's a lifestyle home, but you know what? It has one of the best views you're ever going to see in Utah. It's a spectacular view. So I know that views never get old for me. Right?
No, me either.
So I'm like, that's why, even though we paid a lot for it, even though it was an appreciating market, I think it's going to hold its value and be more stable. The last home that we were in, it was a home that went up $7 per square foot during the Great Recession. because it was in a desirable neighborhood. We sold that home in 7 days. We got full asking because we asked exactly what we wanted for it because of the neighborhood. So if it's really about your knowledge, and there's only a few things I'm really knowledgeable in real estate, and there's a lot that I know a little bit about because I've been in the game, but I don't stay in that game. So stick to your lane, know your investor DNA, find out what's right for you, and stay away from all the other temptations. Because here's the deal. Every entrepreneur needs to have this as a mantra to somewhere in their mind. You got to discern the difference between an opportunity and a distraction, because every distraction is gift wrapped and looks like an opportunity, but it often is not. Your time is valuable. Your life is valuable. Your money is valuable. You got to learn to say no to things that are good so you can reserve your time for the things that are greatest.
Love it. Just use discernment, y'all. Get out there. Figure it out. If it is an opportunity, great, seize it. If it's a distraction, say no to it and keep it moving. Stay in your lane. I love this, Garrett. This has been just such an amazing interview. Now, I do like to ask all my happy hustlers a couple different questions in a couple different disciplines.
Okay.
You know, I call them happy hustle hacks. This is basically maybe a tip, a tool, a tactic, something you use to happy hustle in this area. And first, I know health is a priority in your life. I mean, it's a priority in everyone's life. It should be, at least. What is a happy hustle hack that you use for health?
So I like to do hikes and walking while I'm memorizing comedy and my one-man show. And I also like to use a rower while I'm memorizing those things. So I just flip through them, and I'll find I'm not working as hard, but it's amazing how 2,500 meters or 5,000 meters on the road can seem monotonous, but when I'm memorizing it, just flies by. So, and then I've been doing less Metcon CrossFit style stuff and doing a lot more stretching and foundation training, if you're familiar with foundation training. And so I've really enjoyed that, where in the past I didn't look at walking as like a valuable exercise. I'm now doing a lot more walking, spending time with my wife, making a nice latte where we go for a little bit of walk. We do a lot of that up at the cabin. And then when I'm short on time, I just use the X3 bands just so I get a little bit of a pump. And it's just kind of a one and done type of thing. And I have a gym in my house. I have a gym at my cabin. And my workout this morning, I didn't want to spend a lot of time working out, so I just did a 25-minute swim in the lap pool. Swimming's supposed to be really good for you. It's a little bit boring for me. So, but I just look at consistency, just staying consistent with doing stuff instead of having like these monumental workouts that are like the hero workout where I'm dead at the end. It's like, no, it's okay. And I just, sleep is definitely makes all the workouts that much better. And like having purpose to it, like going hunting. Okay, now I need to do some hikes, so I'm in shape to go hunting. Like adding some of those elements where there's a reason to it other than just look good or feel good, which are great reasons, but like they give you a little bit more accountability. And,
For sure.
and then I always have people that come and work out with me at my house, which is fun, like my friends. So we have a little bit more going on that way. I'm less likely to skip it. So I've been really consistent for several years now.
Love that, man. Yeah. And it shows. And one thing I like to just outline is stretching every day adds 7 years to your life. So touch them toes, baby, because it is important,
I do the 5 Tibetan stretches most mornings. I do the where you just do the move your hips and kind of do the kidney slap. I do the cat cow. I do the downward dog and the cobra. I do the rebounder. And then the tabletop. So I'm doing so much more stretching now than I used to.
Love it. Yeah. And I love doing Tai Chi. I've done martial arts since I was a boy. So I'm big into just moving meditation, and Tai Chi is one in which I love. And my Kung Fu master and Taoist priest, Master Chen, he really has, you can look up his videos and stuff, but the 8 Brocade is a really great place to start if you're new into Tai Chi, and just another form of movement, of stretching. It's all moving that chi, that life force energy. So
I also like to do tips. I like to get the activation of the, what is it? Crap, I just forgot, but like where you kind of do a little slap, a little here, and it kind of gets the lymphs going, right? You get the lymphs going here and here. then do it a little bit at the chest, then under here, and then at the stomach. And so it's just a little bit of like kind of rubbing it and then slapping it, and it just gets the stress lowered. And a lot of times I'll start my days that way too.
Love it, man. Those are great tips. Now, I do want to ask you a happy hustle hack that you utilize for your marriage, for your relationship, something that maybe you implement, with your wife that you can share with the happy hustlers.
You have to have a vision for your business. You got to have a vision for your marriage. So my vision is to be a premier romantic and an extraordinary husband. And so with that, we've initiated date nights. We haven't been doing it as much lately. We have a lot going on, but weekly meetings where we go over everything, say, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10 as a husband? How are you? And then I rate her. And then what would I do? What would I need to do to get to a 10? And then just like, I just love being like a flirt and just treating it like it's day one. So I joke with her all the time. I'm like, hey, you want to stay the night tonight? We've been married for 19 years. She's like, well, my stuff is here. And so,
that's hilarious.
That's been really nice. And we spend time cuddling and talking at night. Little pillow talk is super nice. And just, I don't know, I have like 1,000 hacks for marriage because of me being a hack in my marriage from year 7 to 9, being super caught up in my business, and success was about stuff. And so I really decided in 2012 to invest in my relationship more than anything. And it just has paid dividends for the last decade in such a big way. But once I have that vision, that weekly meeting, we make sure to take trips abroad, always have something on the calendar to look forward to. So we talk about it and like, oh yeah, that trip's coming up. We love to do concerts together. We've done a lot less due to COVID, but we did book some more tickets coming up. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Invest in your relationship just as much as you invest in your business. I mean, I just dropped 5 Gs on the Gottman's couples retreat workshop this past weekend or 2 weekends ago. And we did this virtual training with them and for 2 days. And, it was so interesting. They said, just you mentioned cuddling, they said 93% of couples who say they have a great sex life say they cuddle. So if you want a great sex life, basically you have a 7% chance of having one if you don't cuddle. So do the math on that one, guys. Start cuddling. But yeah, man, the great tips there. I also do a weekly meeting and date nights, and it's just important. Also, what you measure, you can manage. So we have a bear talk, and we measure yourself, like, what should I start doing? What should I stop doing? What should I keep doing? And it's like, you got to put numbers around it. We have a whole love calendar to quantify each day, 1 to 10. And then we just kind of whiteboard it on our calendar. Like, okay, I was an 8 today. You were a 6. We averaged out a 7. We put a heart around it. That way, at the end of the month, we look and say, hey, you know what? We had about 85% love days, 15% X days, if it's a 5 or below, it's an X. But that allows you to quantify it. And as human beings, we have this negativity bias, and sometimes we can get caught up in, my relationship or the drama or the fight. So it's important to quantify, truly where you're at. So you have a measurement and a barometer. Nice. Anyway, that's my spiel. Let's talk about spirituality. And then I'm going to ask you some rapid fire rounds and we'll wrap this bad boy up. So give me a happy hustle hack for spirituality.
I mean, to me, it's really about intuition and listening to that intuition. So I like to meditate and then actually listen to talks from these spiritual mentors that I have, and doing those two things. And then my wife and I are really on the same page from a spiritual standpoint. And so once I started listening to intuition, I felt like I was given some profound guidance and really was transformative. And I just make sure to never think I'm enlightened, because then I get hit with a lesson that I'm far from it. And I learned some of my old patterns. And so, but to me, the most spiritual thing is to choose love in the face of everything. Like, I don't have the answer to everything, but I know the question is love. So I try to ask myself, how can I show up as love right now? And I feel like that is the most spiritually connected thing I could do.
Amazing, man. Yeah. Meditation, learning from, people who have more wokeness, or who that's not even proper English, but it's important to learn from spiritual masters and people who are truly enlightened or have done the deep work to shortcut your learning curve. And love is always the answer. Kindness wins. Those are great, man. This has been such an amazing interview, Garrett. And I do like to ask all my guests some rapid fire round questions.
All right, let's do it.
Basically where I ask you just random. You answer first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite movie? Go.
V for Vendetta came up first. I don't know if it's for sure my favorite, but I love it.
That's awesome. Favorite food?
A good ribeye is hard to beat, but even an elk backstrap is right up there.
Mm-hmm. So true. Favorite? Favorite book. I was going to ask you something different, but favorite book.
Conversations with God.
Nice read. Best business advice.
Don't see yourself as your business. Look at it as a canvas to create value, not as your identity.
Love that. What's your spirit animal?
I think it's like the owl. I just love these owls because it reminds me of my great grandma. They show up in a lot of my most spiritual dreams, and I don't know that much about them other than there's wisdom there, and I seek wisdom. So yeah.
Hey, love it. If you could have one billboard with the last piece of content, that you'd ever create and for the world to see, what would that billboard read?
Love yourself.
And 3 things you're most grateful for right now in this moment.
I'm really grateful that I get to do comedy as part of the way to educate people. I'm really grateful for people like you that are showing up and supporting and spreading the words, because without that support, it would be me in an empty room, which is just not as fun with comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for my family to find a house that we all love, to have kids that love us and are very open with us, to have my youngest son open for me when I did my comedy special and do comedy at 13 years old, and to be 19 years and still feel like my marriage is super fresh and like I'm excited about it on a regular basis. Like that's it feels extraordinary. And it took work, no doubt, but it has been richly rewarding.
Love that, man. Wow. Powerful stuff. And that's like, for me, that's what happy hustling's all about. Being able to do something you actually love. I know it's cliche, and then doing it with people that you actually care about and
Right.
Making an impact in the process. Garrett, man, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. And I so appreciate you sharing your love, your light, your wisdom. I learned a ton in this interview, and I know the happy hustlers will equally learn a ton. And
if I would have only known you when I was 18, I might have been able to model in Korea, dude. Didn't know what I was doing. I needed your advice. I needed you to tell me what's going on.
Hey, man, it's never too late. I'll hook you up with some agents.
But we'll have you out to one of the workshops, and we'll have some good times together, and hopefully people will come check out the comedy tour.
Yeah.
I will say, if people are still listening, I'm just going to tell them FF20. That's friends and family 20. You get the actual cost of the comedy ticket, which is what we pay the clubs. $20 when you go to GarrettGunderson.gg. You check out FF20. It's just our hard cost.
Wow.
I just want to share the gift of laughter with people and help them learn.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that gracious offer. And GarrettGunderson.gg FF20. Take him up on this. Hit him up on one of those awesome, city stops that he's going to be frequenting in the next couple months. And definitely when the American Ream comes out, make sure you stream it. And rate and review it as well, if that's a thing on the streaming services. I know on Amazon
I
you can
give it a thumbs up, and you can tell other people about it, so it hits the algorithm and stays in people's screens and that kind of thing. I feel like we're due for comedy. It feels like less is coming out on the streaming services. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's actually something I realized recently. It's all older stuff. But very cool, man. You got a lot of irons in the fire, and I'd love to have you out for a Montana mastermind as well soon.
That would be fun, man.
Get you out in the wilderness. So Thank you again, brother. Any final closing words before I ask you the last question?
I just want to say thanks. Really enjoyed it, and diving a little bit deeper, and you're super well prepared and bring a great energy to the world. And I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you too. Now, final question.
Yeah.
What does happy hustling mean to you?
It means that the win is in the work, because it's the work that you want to do, and you'll gladly hustle because you're not giving up who you are. You're expressing who you are.
Mic drop, everyone. This has been amazing. Garrett Gunderson, everyone. Appreciate you, brother. We're out. Peace and love.
Want to master your money? Want to figure out the things that you could do to improve your finances? Click here and check out more videos like this on Money Matters.